October and November to start talking about the budget. I'm trying to think, in the past 3 years that I've sat on the board, other than the budget committee, less than a handful of people have come to express concerns, except on school buildings and that type of thing. The other thing that I look at is at the deliberative session this year, we have $60 million plus budget. That budget got no comment. Not a single individual came forth to speak about that. We had people come speak about a $1,600 expenditure for a varsity softball coach for our girls softball team, probably 5 or 6 individuals. And we had, I would think, about a half an hour's worth of discussion, if not more, on a citizen's petition for $250,000 for field maintenance. Yet $60 million goes without a comment. So I don't know what the answer is. We've talked amongst ourselves, we've talked in public about changing the night. Is it the night that it's a Friday night, nobody comes? But the same argument is made on Saturday at town meeting. Well, it's Saturday. You heard it this morning. Well, it's Saturday. Well, a lot of people are busy. I don't know the answer. Lowering the number is not the answer, because I think lowering the number, while I'd entertain it, you run the risk of, number one, where do you get to, what number do you go to? But then you can have what we've had here in the past, where I can stack the audience. So 15 people can make a decision to spend $50,000, $100,000, $250,000. And that's not a true representation of the people of the town of Londonderry.
All right, thank you. Trent, your question, and we'll stay with George.
Yeah, following up with Bill's question, right now there are no major drug awareness programs in Londonderry public schools. It's a 3-part question. The first is that a school board issue? Second, where does it rank? And third, do you have any plans to address that?
Thanks, Trent. Appreciate that. Yeah, there is no major program. Is it a school board issue? In my opinion, absolutely, it's a school board issue. I think that's one of the places where the line gets blurred. It's funded by the town. It's funded by grants. It's not funded by the school district. I mean, I think it's important, as I said with the original question. I think it's critical. It's a part of our curriculum. Where does it rank in the overall scheme of things? I think I believe curriculum is, we're trying to turn out citizens. We're trying to turn out people who want to give back to their community. We want our children to succeed in life. And part of that is all of the education that they get. It's all of the co-curricular activities. It's all of the clubs that they belong to. It's all of the sports activities. It's things like health and wellness education. It's things like drug awareness education. It's those kind of things. So as far as that, it's a part of the curriculum, and I put it up there. Curriculum, to me, is the primary goal of the school district. It's the primary focus, or should be the primary focus of the board. So it's right up there at the top of the list. And I haven't addressed the plan, and to this point, I think we're going to have to. And if it's necessary for the school board to do that, I, as 1/5, I always got to, from 5th because it's like 20% of the board going forward, is willing to bring that forward, because I think it's important. And I think we need to address it, and we need to address it now before we have more classes that go forward without that type of education being there, or at least it's not that the education's not there, it's not the formalized program that's there. I mean, our teachers are still doing what they can in the wellness and the health classes.
Thank you. John?
I agree with George. I think it's an appropriate health and wellness thing. I also think that it's a valuable piece of information for kids to be getting at the age that they do. In addition to DARE programs and things like that, though, it's also worth pointing out that there is an active Students Against, what do the 2 Ds stand for these days? It used to be drunk driving.
Dangerous decision.
Dangerous Decisions, yeah, program that goes on. There is, as George mentioned, activity in other realms. The discussion comes up in other realms, so I don't think it's really there. But as a parent, is it something that I'd want my kids' schools to invest in? Yeah, I think awareness of dangerous choices and dangerous substances is something that I'd like the schools to be aware of and invested in, whether it's necessarily through a DARE program or some other alternative that we might be able to develop or work on as a group. Maybe there's a New Hampshire solution here. I don't know, but let's look for it.
Thank you. Bill, your second question, and we'll stay with you, John.
There was a bill up before the legislature this year, and it didn't get a lot of general publicity, but it was something that the people it impacted were very passionate about, and it had to do with homeschooling and the relationship between homeschooling and the district, and accountability, and some additional freedom for homeschooling parents and whatnot in terms of decisions that they made relative to curriculum. If you could talk a little bit about how you see the relationship of homeschooling families integrated into the school system and that system of accountability with homeschooling.
Well, education is a fundamental right, but I don't know that there is an obligation to participate in the public school system. For various reasons, a lot of people make different choices. I went to private school for high school. When we moved here from North Carolina 10 years ago, my wife homeschooled my sons for half a year just because we were in transition and it didn't make sense to locate them in a place where we happened to be living temporarily. There are a lot of reasons why people do homeschooling, and a lot of our homeschoolers, I tell you, I was working Old Home Day this year at the WLLO, the school radio station booth, and a couple of kids from the Inventioneers program came by and started talking about the invention they came up with that won I think it was the International Grand Prize, the best invention that came up. And I'm sitting there thinking that these kids are clearly smarter than me, and that's a good thing, but smarter than most of the adults sitting there on the common that day, and they're all homeschooled. More power to them. I think that they have every right to participate in all the things that a person who is enrolled directly in the school district does. I work with the radio station club. Love to have them come by. I think they'd be great. However they choose to engage the community, they have every right to engage the community. And since the schools are the primary forum where a lot of young kids engage the community, I believe they should be welcome.
All right. George.
Thanks again, Bill. Yeah, and John's absolutely right. We actually have 80 homeschool kids in the district now, and our facilities and clubs and sports teams all welcome, homeschools. I can't tell you how many actually, partake in that. But again, as John said, I can send my kids to private school. I can choose to keep them homeschooled, and I can send them to the public school. I think the important thing that you raise, Bill, is accountability. And where does that fit? And what's the district's role in the accountability of the homeschooled children? I wrestle with that because the state says I have to have a certain number of credits to obtain a state diploma. Town of Londonderry happens to exceed that. We ask for 24 credits, and the state requires 20. Our kids graduate, if they graduate with a Londonderry diploma, with 24 credits. So I wrestle with, is it the responsibility of the district to provide the diploma, or is it the responsibility of the state to ensure that the kids have the education that they need going forward? And I don't know the answer to that. It's a question, I think, that parents have to ask as well. You know, what do you want for your children?